Thank you so much, honorable professors, dear colleagues. First of all, I would like to say thank for the organizers for having me in this wonderful palace in the present international conference on jurisprudence. It is really a great honor to be here and to talk about my researches, which are much more legal history than legal philosophy. But this time I would like to give a short sum of the political visions of the Spanish Habsburg monarchs. Maybe I should explain first what I mean under the term Messianic imperialism. This term refers to the attitude and the actions of the Spanish crown during the 16th and 17th centuries. This period is known as the Golden Age of the Spanish Empire. It's zenith of power, influent culture, literature, architecture, etc. And of course, it is known about its famous philosophers as well. I guess you know well this period because of the important and illustrious school of Salamanca and its representatives, Francisco de Vitoria, Francisco Suarez, or Juan de Mariana, etc. In the case of the Messianic imperialism of the Spanish monarchs, we are talking about not a unique author or a philosopher, but the late medieval and early modern Spanish rulers, Queen Isabel la Católica and her successors, the Habsburg kings of Spain. So we do not talk about a unique book or an essay or a discussion written by a philosopher, or something like that, but the Spanish Habsburg's visions. These monarchs wrote their visions, their attitude, their views into their political and legal testaments, laws and royal orders, and these are the primary sources of which we can detect it. If we read these documents, we can notice, at least in my interpretation, that the imperial policy of the Spanish crown, the so-called Messianic imperialism, in my use of term, was based on at least 5 essential pillars during the 16th and 17th centuries. Obviously, when the topic is viewed from another perspective, military, social, economic, etc., other or additional viewpoints can be identified, of course. So in my interpretation, which is now a geopolitical perspective, these pillars are the following. First, the first one is the importance of the creation of the political union, political and religious union or unity within the Spanish territories. The cultural and religious background in the Iberian Peninsula was the Reconquista, the 800 years long struggle for the recovery of Iberia from the Moors, where various Christian kingdoms and states were created by the kings Leon, Castile, Navarre, Aragon, Valencia, etc. But the monarchs finally came to understand that a kind of union, at least a political one, would be more benefit for the Spaniards to fulfill their main goal, the Reconquista. This recognition led to the formation of the mayorazgo principle in the Castilian law, which substance was to conserve the unity of a state and which became an important legal principle for the succession of the throne in Castile as well. So the monarch shall not divide its country among the heirs. By the second half of the 15th century, the marriage union between Isabel of Castile and Ferdinand of Aragon allowed the Spaniards to unite their forces, and thus they became enough strong to be able to abolish the last Moorish kingdom and reconquer the entire Iberian Peninsula. This experience encouraged the monarchs to unite, at least personally, if not legally, their realms and states. Thus, Isabel of Castile, likewise Ferdinand of Aragon, named her daughter Infanta Joanna as successor universal of all their states and kingdoms. That meant the personal and political but not legal unification of the Spanish kingdoms of the peninsula after the death of Ferdinand of Aragon in 1516. This policy proved to be crucial for the successors of the Catholic monarchs too, so the Habsburgs maintained also this legal principle through the next centuries, and from case to case, they stated that all their kingdoms and crowns shall be inherited by the firstborn heir, and no any division or separation shall be allowed for any case. We know only one example when the sovereign ceded the Low Countries to its daughter, but it was an exemption and a tactical decision at the end of the 16th century. This mayorazgo principle was extended to all their possessions, to the Low Countries, to the various Italian possessions, and later to Portugal during the Iberian Union, and to the Indies. So all the states and kingdoms and lands under their jurisdiction as well. If we check the laws of the kingdoms of the Indies, we can read that Charles I of Castile stated during his inauguration oath in Barcelona in 1519 that all the kingdoms of the Indies, so the Americas, the newly discovered and to be discovered lands shall be fully united with the crown of Castile forever and cannot be separated for any reason from the crown of Castile. 100 years later, King Philip IV stated that the kingdom of Castile and the kingdoms of the Indies, New Spain and Peru, are from the same crown. During the Middle Ages, the Iberian Peninsula culturally was an authentic patchwork. This cultural, religious, and ethnical mosaic was the source of serious internal conflicts, which proved to be a permanently growing problem to be solved for the crown by the end of the 15th century. So the monarchs finally decided that all their subjects must convert to the Holy Catholic faith, saying that those who do not want to do so has to leave the peninsula. Why? Because the monarchs needed a stable hinterland to be able to focus on the defense and fight against the Ottomans in the next 2 centuries. For example, a subject of the crown, for once Catholic, no matter he or she was non-Catholic before, shall not leave the Holy Catholic faith. This policy later became the essential part of the strategic decisions of the Spanish Habsburgs. The second pillar was the defense of the Catholic Church and the Catholic faith. This policy came from the struggles of the Reconquista, the crusader attitude of the Spanish monarchs, and the Spaniards. For example, King Alfonso the Wise stated in his testament at the end of the 13th century that his heart shall be buried in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. The century-old idea to liberate Jerusalem, the whole land, was supported by the Spanish monarchs. Many of them made gracious donations for the Franciscans in Jerusalem regularly. This attitude was intact and so popular even in the 16th and 17th centuries. Just let's see the famous works of Francisco de Quevedo, Lope de Vega, the great poets of the Golden Age. This defender image of the monarchy was portrayed by art as well. In Spain, various chivalric orders were established during the Middle Ages, but the Council of the Crusade was created only in the 16th century by the Habsburgs. By the time the monarch became the Grand Master of all the chivalric orders of the Spanish kingdoms. Very interesting that all the Habsburg kings were portrayed only with the great color of the Order of the Golden Fleece. The Spanish monarchs stated in their laws that all their subjects must believe and confess what the Church teaches and confesses. We could ask, what if a monarch leaves the Catholic faith? All of them stated in the last will that the heir to the throne shall be a faithful Catholic. The heir who leaves the Catholic faith is to be deprived of the throne immediately. A good question would be whether a sovereign has limits or not if or she wants to convert to another religion. Can a sovereign change the law freely? Or there are fundamental rules that cannot be changed, not even by the sovereign itself. The third pillar is a logic consequence of the second one. Although the Spanish monarchs could fulfill the Reconquista, but a new challenge appeared immediately, the powerful Ottoman Empire from the East and the new schism within the Christian world in Europe. The regular clashes with the Ottomans and the permanent religious wars in Europe required a significant part of the resources of the entire Spanish Empire. The Habsburg monarchs were ready to act and to defend the religion and the Catholic Church, even at the second half of the 17th century. King Philip IV stated in his last will that all the resources of the empire must be devoted to the protection of the Catholic Church and the glory of God. This policy is the survival of the medieval idea of the Christian universalism. Very interesting that the Spanish monarchs treated their kingdoms and subjects not only as states and nations, but as an adequate instrument and servant to defend the Catholic Church and the Catholic faith. If we check the symbols, we can see this attitude well. The use of the Cross of St. Andrew as the imperial flag. The fourth pillar was to propagate the Holy Catholic faith in the entire world. This is the age of the discoveries, Columbus, Magellan, etc. After Columbus had returned from the New World, Pope Alexander VI issued various bulls in which he divided the New World, which territory was not under a Christian prince jurisdiction still, between the Portuguese and Spanish crown. But the Pope imposed an important condition to the privilege, a clear messianistic mandate to propagate the Catholic faith in the new lands. So the Spanish monarchs took this mandate in serious way. That is why Pope Alexander gave them the title Catholic Kings, Reyes Católicos, a few years later. The monarchs wanted to fulfill the mandate of the Supreme Pontiff to convert all the New World to the Catholic faith. We can read in the laws of the Indies that the viceroys, archbishops, bishops, and landowners' first obligation is to ensure the conversion of the local communities, to build monasteries, chapels, churches, cathedrals, schools, universities for the people in the New World, and to teach them the doctrines of the Catholic faith. If we check the religious map of the world now, the various heritage of this policy can be well detected. And finally, the fifth pillar was to integrate the New World into the Hispanic civil culture as well. The Spanish monarchs used the title King of the Indies, and as I have mentioned above, they treated the newly discovered lands and its people as they were part of the Castilian world. A kind of legal continuity can be also detected, very interesting, that how it was showed by the art in Peru, for example. The Habsburg monarchs, Charles V, Philip II, Philip III, etc., are portrayed as the 15th, 16th, 17th Inca rulers in Peru. Very interesting. The local nobles and communities were respected and recognized by the Spanish crown. The monarchs stated in their laws that the lands and properties of the Indians shall be respected by everyone. Very interesting that the crown tried to integrate the local nobility into the Castilian nobility. Numerous elite figures got Spanish noble titles and coat of arms from the Habsburgs, like in the case of Pedro Tesifon de Moctezuma, the direct descendant of Aztec Emperor Moctezuma, who got the title Count of Moctezuma from King Philip IV. The crown, from the beginning, advocated the policy of racial mixing between the Spaniards and the local people. There are many famous examples. Martin Cortes, the son of Hernan Cortes and the local Indian woman, became the knight of the Order of Santiago, or Inca Garcilaso de la Vega, born to a Spanish conquistador and an Inca princess. We can see the various paintings from the 16th and 17th centuries, which represent the local elite dressed to elegant silk or velvet dresses, with full of gold and silver jewels, with the coat of arms received from the monarch, mixed with the Castilian and local symbols. To conclude, let me show you an allegoric painting from Lima, Peru, 17th century, which represents the double marriage of three important families, the Loyola, the Borja, and the Inca families, with the wedding guests, both Indians and Spaniards, and in the middle of the picture, San Ignacio de Loyola and San Francisco de Borja, the two saint members of the family. The former is relative of the founder of the Jesuit Society. The latter is the descendant of Pope Alexander VI. I guess this painting can summarize the essence of the Messianic policy of the Spanish Habsburg monarchs I have tried to talk about. And thank you for your kind attention.